Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the thrilling r/civ Battle Royale. Today's installment was written by a buttload of different people, but first up, it's Johnny Regular. But before all that starts, some of our fantastic OC. I'm sure you all remember losing our resident haiku master Meiji last week. Theodore of the Rump will surely miss him, but Tigran Darkhan of Yakutia fancies Meiji's place at the table. If he can hold on to his last city, that is. Here we have the almost tile-accurate map, courtesy of Edze 1991. Soak it in, folks, a lot of work probably went into this. I don't know, I genuinely wouldn't know, I've never done anything like this, so... It might be a lot of work, it might not be any work, it might be, you know, a different amount in between the two that I said, or more or less even, I don't know, I don't know. And the tile-accurate-ish city map by Spherical_Melon. We're lucky to have some of the world's finest cartographers documenting every change on the cylinder. Study both maps carefully, as the world will never be the same again. Central America and the Caribbean in particular. Top of the power rankings this week is Paul Kruger. His place at the top isn't as secure as it was a few parts ago though. If he fails to make gains against Finland, and the Trunks or Korea wage a few well-calculated wars, our rankers may lose confidence in him. Make sure to have your say by voting in Uncle Phil's poll. No doubt you'll find a link on the subreddit. Onto the slides, and the Boers continue to conduct endless air raids on Finland's Mediterranean cities. At a glance, one might think Kekkonen isn't doing so well here, but the Boers' North African holdings are starting to look a bit worse for wear. To top it off, the Finns are sending in a quite diverse force, including carriers that are actually carrying planes and their signature XCOM squads. Kruger, and indeed all world leaders, should be taking notes. Just to the east, we can see why the Orange Menace shouldn't be so confident in this war. Kruger's forces of hover tanks should hold the line in Arabia, but the Finns have sent in a good few XCOMs to challenge them. I still wouldn't be putting my money on Finland coming out on top, but it will definitely not be an easy war for the Reich. In the north, Armenian forces out for a hike are unaware they're protecting the Siberian exclave of Gyumri. Don't mind us, they say. In former Timurid territory, Kuchum Khan's forces hold their ground against Vietnamese XCOM squads. Vietnam supporters will be glad to see that the Trunks have ordered a more diverse range of units to be produced, but sending them into enemy territory without reinforcements is a poor strategy. We're also seeing more Siberian organic infantry, a unit that I don't think has been spotted anywhere else. With 100 strength and march promotions, they're not to be trifled with. Look at the Aussies go! Supporters of the Wobbegong might have been concerned when their allies peaced out with the Buccaneers. But at this point it doesn't look like it will be a problem, and it will just mean more territory for Parks. Excellent use of the Nassau Canal too. Henry Morgan hasn't given up yet though. After a few drinks, he decides the Romans will be a suitable target for his next venture. Oh my, things really aren't looking good for Yakutia. But things could be worse, right? Well, not really. Tigran is stuck in a frozen, irradiated hellhole under constant siege and is likely praying for the sweet release of death. Ah, nuclear weapons. That's a bit more cheery. Seong of Korea may be running a bit low on ground troops, but his air force is strong. It is, however, concentrated in only a few cities. Keeping them on the border with the Inuit is only sensible, but a lot of their western flank is unprotected. Not that Genghis Khan is a serious threat right now. Vietnam is, though, and Seong supporters had better hope he has a good air force and a few more units in the south of his empire in case the Trunks come knocking. The Caucasus is a relatively quiet area, at least for being part of a war front between two global powers. Sibir's core has looked quite thin of units since their war with Finland, but apparently the Green Peril has driven the Khan into ramping up military production, and at least in this part of the world, he looks more than able to hold off the Trunks. Armenian and Roman forces dawdle around the landscape, yet unaware they're getting in the way of real contenders. Sorry Tiridates, You've done well for yourself, really. Korea will need to do better than this if they're going to hold up against the inevitable rematch with Vietnam. They have a formidable navy, even if it does contain a few empty carriers. But their air force is all in the former Yakutian lands, and they have very few boots on the ground at all. Whilst they had no problem conquering Yakutia, it has thinned their forces significantly, and Sejong will need some time to rebuild. Meanwhile, Mexico continues to hold out surprisingly well against Crowfoot Slowpoke Rodriguez of the Blackfoot, although he recently picked up Monterrey. Don't expect him to hold on much longer than that though. You know how in TV and films, whenever Mexico is shown, they just apply an orange tint to everything? Well, in this universe, that's quite accurate, as the Mexican air is heavy with radioactive dust. At this point, slide writing is taken over by Mr. Mac23, a die-hard Boer fan. As cww.kronstadt.reich reports on Krugersdorp-born great musician Albert Vandermeer's regional concert tour, we also happen to get a good look at the dreadful case of carrier plague Kruger seems to have caught from his brief war on the Bucks. To the west, the Boer core also looks substantially less jam-packed than it was a couple of parts ago. Even the Orange Giant is feeling the strain of so many wars. Let's hope Albert's cyborg core tunes can inspire the Madagascan people to build more subs and less carriers. Meanwhile, in a place with significantly less pounding techno, on the border between the sleepy Icelanders and the ever-frozen Inuit, we can see a comparison of the armies of the two currently slumbering giants. Ground forces are minimal on both sides, but while the Icelandic navy may appear much larger, the carrier plague has struck yet again. An affliction that a Kunik has so far been spared of. If war broke out now, I could see the Icelanders taking massive losses just to keep the Ice Sheet fleet contained. The Icelandic core looks tasty, surrounded by their vast navy. All the ships they have in the ocean has probably significantly raised the sea level. In the meantime, one of our Babylonian spies has been dispatched to investigate the metropolis of Reykjavik. Of course, we sent the one with the least pronounceable name in order to best blend in with the locals, Peshgal Daramesh Magnusson. One of our better-known spies, the infamous Agent M, is in Port Royale to infiltrate Henry Morgan's war room and learn more about his plans. Of course, these days, that mostly consists of Morgan downing very large glasses of rum in his decrepit armchair and shouting about drinks and girls, and wondering if warring against states that haven't existed for millennia might be a good idea. Will you have a cup of tea instead, Henry? The Aussies are rapping on the doors of Leogarn, and their existing holdings seem secure, but they could be running a bit low on steam. Morgan's forces look superior overall. If Park sends in a few more reinforcements though, the dominoes could fall like a house of cards. A strategic view of Latin America shows that the Aussies certainly are not done just yet. However, their airbase at Tulum will outlive its usefulness soon. Drone fighters have a range of 12 tiles, which I think puts further Buck cities after Leogain out of range. Don't expect Parks to let up too soon though. Tulum remains a great staging point for the invasion to continue. Behold, the Dvinish Empire in all its glory. Well, let's be fair, at this stage of the game, an empire that can fit wholly within one screenshot can't be too glorious. Honestly, Sparta's one of the healthier looking members of the Order of the Rump though. Well carpeted, enviable location, natural wonder, freedom to have leg day every day, what more could a Spartan want? Conquest of their neighbors, I suppose. All around Dvin, conflict rages. No captures yet, but no shortage of fighting. Kruger's inland holdings are fairly low on units, but his armies are holding off the Finns well. War all along the mountains. The front between Vietnam and Siberia remains fairly static. However, Vietnam has an atom bomb ready to drop at a moment's notice. This could well get ugly. Toward the north, the Sibir are making a push to recapture Bamda, and are sending a nice mix of units to do so. Likewise, Kuchum is sending several divisions through the pass at Nishapur. We see a lot of fortified units along the rest of the front too. Kuchum Khan is employing some very good strategy here, carefully choosing his battles against a superior opponent. Neither empire wins, one just loses more slowly. Just to the north, we get a nice shot of the Finnish and Siberian cores. Both are worryingly empty, even though they've had time to rebuild after their destructive war, and indeed all of the fallout seems to have been cleared up, but we would hope to see more units in reserve. Kuchum seems to be sending all of his units to the Vietnamese front, and Kekkonen is no doubt sending his to the Mediterranean. However, whereas Serbia looks strong on their front, Finland doesn't have the same level of forces against the Boers. The Finns are tenacious enough to hold on for now, but in the long run their lack of production may become a problem. Don't bite off more than you can chew, Kekkonen. Mongolia might not be the most menacing civ around, but they would quickly overrun Finland's exclaves. Surely master tactician Urho realizes the importance of his exclaves to science and culture output when his core cities need to churn out all the units they can. Elsewhere in this slide, Yakutia holds on for dear life, and we can see Serbia's forces en route to the battlefield. All is relatively quiet in southeastern Europe, except for the whirring and humming of Finnish units headed for the coast. Finland isn't looking too bad here, and the Boers aren't about to tear through the Mediterranean anytime soon. Despite Sweden's impressive navy, the land army is a bit lackluster. You have to wonder what exactly Gustavus has been up to all these years. There's no room for peaceful empires here. And no, plotting against Afghanistan doesn't count. You'll have to do better than that. Boer hover tanks are starting to swarm over Iberia, threatening Kekkonen's latest conquests. Aside from the One-Tile Islands in the Mediterranean Sea, this is an area Finland is most likely to lose. The Finns refuse to go down without a fight though, bringing power armor infantry and nuclear missiles to the front. With any luck, Kekkonen will retain all of his holdings in time to negotiate peace, and Kruger will think twice before messing with the top cakes again. A closer look shows another one of our spies stationed in Porto. How they managed to get through the burning radioactive war zone is a mystery. Hopefully though, the recruit will bring us the most up-to-date information on Kekkonen's war efforts, and the situation in Iberia and northwestern Africa. I personally feel like our spies are experienced enough to be promoted, don't you? Agent M has been supplying us with top quality information for hundreds of years now, but surely she's better than a recruit. M's latest report from Port Royale consists mainly of Morgan's ramblings about wiping out that immortal Chinese gobshite for good, and the important information that he would not like a cup of tea after all. Reykjavik, the Icelandic capital, is building up research, when Ingolfur should really be building up his navy with ships that aren't long, flat, and defenseless. He also has no wonders of any particular note, though the particle accelerator should be helping out with his science. Lastly, the national epic of Iceland is apparently about being sacked, and was written in the industrial era of 360 BC. The cylinder's technology definitely advanced a bit faster than the globe's. Tegea, a rather quaint Swedish city, seems to have a much more focused plan of action. With several gold-heavy tiles and Future World's next building after the stock exchange almost complete, the Lion of the North clearly understands what Big Ben could do for him and plans to act on it. Let's just hope he remembers that you have to spend the money for it to be useful. Morgan is actually building a ship that isn't a carrier. It's far too late, but good on him. Not only does Port Royale have no notable wonders to help in the current massacre, but Henry's marvelous capital looks conspicuously low on population, despite the amount of food coming in, and the city itself has begun taking damage. The fact that Frankenstein is a heroic epic in book and egg culture probably explains a lot, however. His infamous use of nukes has certainly been monstrous, and it seems Sparks has no objections with giving him a taste of his own medicine. As we return from those inside glances, the sheer extent of the carnage being inflicted on the Buccaneer Corps is revealed. Parks is using the Nassau Canal to full effect. As ships flood through to take the already black Leogan and Chichen Itza. Palenque is also in danger, and while the pirates have mustered a valiant force of subs to withstand the onslaught, and have even gone so far as to actually put a plane on a carrier, the effort is clearly too little, too late. The Kraken's tentacles have been severed, and now the harpoons of green and gold strike at its face. Hawaiian peacekeepers visit their fellow city-state of Texas, discussing tactics for when war inevitably arrives to Kaneohe. A great general and engineer take notes on fortifications and the maneuverability of land units, apparently forgetting about their homeland's geography, or rather its lack of any. Meanwhile, Guadalajara is a defenseless, utterly decimated lump of twisted radioactive rock, a small handful of buccaneer slaves waiting for death as a squad of Australian biotroopers approaches. The Blackfoot maintain control of Monterrey, but have yet to make any progress. However, their army is descending upon Veracruz and Wapecute, and 2 mobile SAMs and a pair of woefully outdated artilleries aren't going to cut it for Mexico. To make matters worse, additional Blackfoot soldiers move to intercept between Los Angeles and the front, and Benito has barely any reinforcements to bring, even if he wasn't being blocked off. The Mexican resistance has withstood the nuclear onslaught on the verge of death for over 5 parts, but it seems the end is finally nigh for the fathers of Catholicism. They'll likely survive, but the last chance for Mexico to reclaim its lost glory is about to die forever. The last legion's lost ballista is sighted wandering on the coast of Sibir, and the Knights of the Round Table are enjoying the open space of their worryingly empty core. Meanwhile, Kabul is hanging on by a thread in the wake of Vietnam's drone fleet assault. Nishapur is in a much more stable state, and Kuchum Khan's open borders with Finland ensure that reinforcements can effectively reach the former graveyard of empires. All things considered, they're currently holding the line quite well. Something which clearly cannot be said for Yakutia, whose admiral appears to have broken and fled the final fortress of his people in shame. As Korean hover tanks encroach on Beriozovo, the last commander of the former rap battle champion wails in despair as he finds himself blocked in by an embarked Korean unit. A trio of pro-StarCraft players stare from the frozen shore, judging his failure. There might be no melee units nearby to take the city, but it's only a matter of time until somebody gets the idea and claims the last Yak stronghold for good. Dark days for Dark Khan, most likely his last. Prime your F keys, folks. Disaster for Boer supporters. The Finns have broken onto the African continent, capturing Alexandria. Nothing has come of the blackened Epidaurus, and while plenty of units are close enough to recapture the city, the implications of this are immense. Even after the battering he took 10 parts ago, Kekkonen has bounced back with a thirst for vengeance. And he can make the Reich bleed. A brief look at Australia confirms that they are one of the few civs on the cylinder that has still an intact carpet, and that is absolutely horrifying. That one Kimberley artillery must be bricking it. While Australia was spectacularly incompetent in Mexico, their slaughter of the Bucks has been nothing short of absolutely brutal, and they still have a completely unharmed core to show for it. Curiously, a Yakutian carrier with something on it has also been swallowed by the Armada. Even if Darkhan dies, that last ship might serve as a very secure lifeline if he fancies being a ghost. A very curious development. Kruger has no less than 7 nukes pointed at the Kimberley's Antarctic colonies, even as the Finns penetrate his North African borders. What in TPang's name could he have planned for them, and why? The Kimberley are far from the greatest threat to the Reich superiority, and nuking them would be an excessively cruel and pointless thing to do. Perhaps exposure to the Bucks has given him more than just a case of carrier plague. Another look at the Aussie core as Kruger hopefully realizes the ridiculous position his nukes are in and moves them accordingly. Not only do hover tanks blot out the sun across the outback, but a platoon of GDR stand watch on the shore of Gularabulu Baidu, and an organic infantry unit has been sighted guarding the precious node of uranium. Meanwhile, at the top of the screenshot, Mongolian machine gun tries and fails to blend in with the Kimberley. A look at the border between Korean Yakutia and the land of always winter shows us several things. A glance at the terrifying hordes of the Ice Sheet Fleet in the northeast, Kunik's ever conspicuously half-empty lands, the Koreans thankfully having withstood the carrier plague, and a rather discomforting number of Finnish peacekeepers in the otherwise empty Korean land. Sejong needs to use the extra breathing room granted by his recent conquests to fortify, and he needs to do it before his lands are flooded with foreign soldiers, lest the White Walkers turn their frozen eyes on him. From now on, slides will be written by ex-Syracuse, which is the most interesting thing about this shot, honestly. In unrelated news, Vietnamese spy drones recently caught this flurry of activity in the Antarctic. What could this mean? Everyone's favorite puppy, Tibet, has decided freedom is the way to go. Obviously, since every civ ever has cultural domination over them, Gampo citizens aren't exactly happy about choosing a different ideology than basically every single other person in the world. Somebody forgot to write anything for this slide, and it sure as shit wasn't me. We see that Sparta has cultural influence over two different civs, Ashanti and Rome, but yet somehow does not have much pull over the Timurids and Huns, who currently survive by hiding away in Dvin. Someone please explain the logic to me later, alright? Damn it, for a second I thought that Iceland was doing something relevant, but then I saw that they're plotting against Finland. While this could be a good war for the Vikings, or maybe also a disastrous one, I just want to see Ingolfur Arnason spill some blood again. Dragons! Is what the Buccaneer Advanced Destroyer in Cienfuegos said, probably. The Aussies are making a move against the rum-soaked pirate Latin America, with the capture of 2 cities, including the other canal city. Although I wonder if any of the Australian hover tanks near Port-au-Prince is named Matthew, because that'd be, you know, pretty funny, considering that people died in real life, and, you know, that's hilarious. I'ma just put this on the time pressure narrators tend to be under, but I could not for the life of me figure out what the fuck this slide wanted to tell me, so I'll leave you with this slide as one of those bullshit make-your-own-meaning postmodernist works of art here. Have fun. Vietnam is sending all their ex-coms into Sibir, and by doing so could also possibly be a serious threat to the Chinese Knights. The Roman ballista can be seen in the Caspian Sea at the bottom left of your screen. On behalf of the entire CBR community, thank you for not passing nuclear non-proliferation, as that would make this game a lot more boring to watch, without getting to see those nice fireworks that cost millions of lives. As the advanced Leroy Stroyer holds Cienfuegos, Boer troops capture Braga and move on to Porto. Boer hover tanks are also assaulting Finnish Malta, Sicily and southern Naples, but have forgotten to bring the melee units. Classic. Finland, who is making one hell of a recovery from nuclear hellfire, is plotting against the now deceased Afghanistan. Don't kick a man while he's down, Topkek. And more news in the plotting department. Sweden wants to neuter Dvin. Sweden loves to beat up Sparta, however, so honestly it's just a normal day in the neighborhood. Also, Israeli spotted, Inquisitor, 4 o'clock. I wasn't sure if the Israelis survived the Armenian capture, which, you know, it's nice to know that they did. In other news, Camp Desert Paradise has been abandoned by the Hawaiians. This image is in here twice for some reason. Not the only plotting, as it seems the Lion of the North wants to have a snack. Not one just to take Dvin, but he also seems to wish to conquer Finland. Wait, no, not them. Iceland? Not them either. Oh, Armenia! Yeah, almost forgot about those 3 cities. Well, this shouldn't be too important. We can just put it up there with the irrelevant wars. Just you don't even have to make sure it's straight. Just put one in, nail, and I don't give a shit. Nobody gives a fuck. It's just irrelevant. Central America looks alright as Sparks has a solid grip on Port-au-Prince and the ever-important Nassau Canal. He could keep these, but the issue are the inland cities. Australia doesn't do too well on land. Ah well, at least it's a small victory. Port Royale is on half health, with no Australian units nearby, so expect little here. Orsai has sailed away to what could be considered to be Dead Civ Heaven, otherwise known as the middle of the fucking ocean. Here he has met other empires which have passed away, including Morocco and a group of strange people who call themselves Burmese. Yeah, remember those? Burma? The last refuge of the Afghans remains in one of the most underdeveloped parts of the cylinder. Australia still leads the military stats with a Pacific garbage patch. I wonder which civ has the strongest useful military. I mean, I say that, but we've seen many hover tanks being produced in mainland Australia. Are we all just perpetuating a dead meme of sorts? The Boers lead population, with near double the second place contender, the Inuit. Well, they had snow cities. They get some recognition for being so high with such bad early cities. The Boers also, unsurprisingly, lead crop yield. Seriously, population and amount of food are so interconnected that it's just not unreasonable. It makes sense. Why is this even in here? The Inuit lead in production, with the Boers a decent amount behind. I guess they set their cities to production focus instead of food focus, explaining this easily. It's not too strange, I guess. Not as weird as the Boars focusing on research. And that's the end, folks. Here's a plug for the new CBR novel, which I have peeked into and found to be much better than I expected, but I haven't done any serious reading, so check it out. It's pinned on the subreddit, which you should visit anyway. This is Burgerkrieg, checking out. Hopefully getting this online on time. On time being before Dawkins does the Wednesday installment, which might be soon. I'm wasting time, aren't I? Should I probably stop recording now, to be honest? I really don't have a good outro though. I think I did that already, and having two outros would be a bit awkward, wouldn't it? Yeah, shit, I think I'm rambling now, which means I'm wasting even more time. Not that it matters in the context of how long editing and rendering will take, but still, you know, every second counts, I guess. Which it also does with scales in the millions of years, so does it really count? Is it really that relevant? That's a question that we'll have to ponder for a while. Do answer it in the comments. I'm not sure how deep this conversation will go, but it will probably go a bit too deep. Yeah, I'm way off script at this point. I don't even know what to say anymore. It's just words coming out of my mouth. I'm stumbling over the syllables. I have no idea how to stop. I just can't stop talking at this point. Look how long even this single slide. It's not even a proper slide. It's just an ad. Because maybe I'm doing this to fill ad time. Have you ever thought of that? Maybe this is like my trick. Because I wasn't paid fucking money, man. Why would I be paid money for, like, this is fan art. Who pays money for that, you know, fan fiction that nobody, well, probably someone probably does that. Like a rich kid from, what is even the thing here? What am I doing with my life?